Aw, good grief. Remember that saying from Charlie Brown? Well, did you know there's such a thing as bad grief? Good morning, this is Kris Shoemaker, also known as Yehudah ben Shomeyr, and you're listening to Coffee with Kris, the time of the day where we share a cup of coffee and share a bit of the Word of God. Thank you so much for joining me on this Wednesday morning for a hot cup of coffee and a hot cup of the Word of God. We're in the Torah portion of Vayeshev, which means he lived. And our Sidra, our Aliyah today is Genesis chapter 38, verses 1 through 30, but I want to hone in on verses 12 through 16. And it reads, Now the days became many, and Shua's daughter, Judah's wife, died. After Judah consoled himself, he went up to Timnah to his sheep shears, he and his friend Hira the Adullamite. Then Tamar was told, Look, your father-in-law is going up to Timnah to shear his flock. And she removed her widow's clothes from herself, covered herself with a veil, wrapped herself, and sat by the entrance to the springs on the way to Timnah. For she saw that Salah had grown up, and she had not been given to him as a wife. When Judah saw her, he thought that she was a prostitute, because she had her face covered. So he turned aside to her along the way and said, Please, let me sleep with you. For he did not know that she was his daughter-in-law. What, she asked, will you give me in order to sleep with me? Oi, sounds like something off the Days of Our Lives, right? Bad grief leads to sin. Coping with tragedy, such as with drugs, alcohol, and sex. Those are escapes. Those make us feel good physically, essentially, fleshly. These set off the feel-good endorphins within our brain when we engage in drugs, sex, and alcohol. But these are bad coping strategies. These are bad coping mechanisms when we're dealing with grief. So basically, Judah set himself up for failure. So let's go to verse 1 of chapter 38. It says, At about that time, Judah went down from his brothers, and he camped near an Adullamite man, whose name was Hira. So we see that he leaves the support base of his family. Judah somehow had a falling out with his brothers, maybe after the incident of them selling Joseph into Egypt. So he got away, and he left basically his support. He left his family. So that was one way he set himself up for failure. Number two, he hooked up with the wrong friends. He became friends with an Adullamite man whose name was Hira. And we read the account, he did nothing but bad for him. Kind of influenced him, was a bad influence on him. So Judah ended up leaving his support base and getting hooked up with the wrong kind of friends. Now, thirdly, he ended up marrying the wrong woman. Verse 2 says, There Judah saw the daughter of a Canaanite man. Okay, there's a problem right there. The word Canaanite just popped up. And Canaanites, they were cursed. Noah had cursed the Canaanites. So it was forbidden for the sons of Shem to marry Canaanite women. But what does it say? Judah saw the daughter of a Canaanite man whose name was Shua, and he took her as a wife and slept with her. So he ended up falling into the wrong crowd and falling in with the wrong woman. A woman can make or break you, right? So he married the wrong woman, and he left the support base of his family. He set himself up for failure so that when his Canaanite wife died, he did not have the right support or coping mechanisms in order to deal with the grief of the loss of his wife. So we need to learn good ways to grieve when grief comes. Have a support of family and friends. And if you can't depend on your biological family, find family and friends within the family of God to be your support system so you can have people to lean upon and will not steer you in the wrong direction when you're having to deal with grief. Second of all, find good friends. Find good friends. They don't have to be believers. They can be secular. They can be non-believers. But find good friends that have a good moral compass and that have a good head on their shoulders and that are wise, that won't steer you or lead you against your faith or in the wrong direction. And thirdly, make sure that you find a godly spouse. Because like I said, a woman can make or break you. We see that Solomon ended up marrying a lot of wrong women. They were political marriages, and they ended up turning his heart away from God, and he turned to idolatry towards the end of his life. Number 4, stay accountable for your vices. So we all have tendencies to cope with things in the wrong way. Some of us are addicted to alcohol. Some of us are addicted to gambling. Some of us are addicted to drugs. Some of us are addicted to porn, whatever. But if we have friends that we're accountable to say, hey, look, I'm being really tempted today in this area that I'm weak. I need you to pray for me. Or I'm about ready to go and do something that I know I shouldn't do. Talk me down from the ledge. It's just the same principle of somebody who is struggling with alcohol having a sponsor from AA that they can call and depend upon when they're feeling weak and vulnerable. So if we do these things, we'll be able to cope with grief in good and godly ways and not go down the path that Judah went, which almost destroyed his life and his family. Guys, thanks so much for listening. Go out there and have a great day. Shalom and God bless.